All right, so it's June, the first week in June, and I am fully planted. The question is, has Batavia started planting? Well, you're going to find out today.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Welcome to the Backyard Gardens podcast, where we talk about all things gardening and give the information out for you to be successful in your garden, whether it's your first or your last. We are your hosts, Ben, the backyard gardener, and
Batavia, the front yard gardener.
one in the country,
One in the city.
and this podcast is a companion podcast to the upcoming documentary Backyard Gardens, a documentary about two families growing food for the first time in a world that lacks nutrition. All right, let us know.
I wish for these update episodes that we talked about what we were going to talk about, because had I known you were going to jump out here that quickly. No, you know what? I absolutely did know, because it's on my update checklist here. I am in the process of planting, which means that plants are actually in their permanent home for the season in my garden.
But they're not in the ground.
They're in the ground.
Oh, you planted.
Yeah. So
everything.
Let's set this through. Because now you're like, there's supposed to be like a celebration here, but then you're jumping to a place I'm not at. And so now I have to walk it back like, okay, no, everything isn't planted. So
okay.
I have 90% of my front yard garden is planted.
Yes.
It's a good
That's
feeling.
good.
It's a good feeling. Yeah.
That's good, because you got a big space.
Yeah, definitely. And I had to figure out the best way to attack it. So I have cucumbers planted, a bunch of peppers, both sweet and hot peppers that are planted in the front yard. I did some eggplants in the front yard, and I actually sowed melon seeds today. I don't know what's going to happen with them. First year growing them. Our season is kind of short for melons here, but I'm going for it.
Yeah, I have melons in my yard, and they're looking a little rough. I might have to re-go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's good. You're started, because it's a process.
I've started. It's
definitely
is.
A process.
So one more time for the people in the cheap seats, biggest garden ever this year. So I've never planted this many things in my garden. And we've been talking about this for months. So you would think I had a plan that I was ready to kind of step through. And I just kind of had to go with it, man. So
right.
I realized that this is hours of work for me. And the cool thing is I enjoy it. So as I sit back, this morning I was planting, I had my coffee, and then I started to get through ideas of, I could do this. This is actually the dangerous part for me, because this is where I start coming up with all these great grand ideas in the midst of the task at hand. Right. And so now the question is, and while I won't stop what I'm doing and then work on something else, what I will do though is kind of add that to my list, and my list runneth over already. So yeah, I have the same issue. It's funny because once you start putting stuff in the ground, then all the ideas that you've been trying to think about all of a sudden come to life. So it's a little insane. Yeah.
But because I'm still going through that right now. We're still kind of early in our season. It's starting to get hot. So I'm trying to judge, okay, I have all my vegetables planted. And as everybody knows, I'm testing the waters with flowers this year. So I'm like, well, what can I put here? What can I put there? And at some point, I just had to cut myself off.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is quick question for you. Is your spring garden running its course? Is it out and now you're full on summer gardening? Is that?
You would ask me that question, you sneaky little devil, you. Yeah. So my spring garden is toast, basically. So what I've done is, I've started pulling stuff up and planting stuff for summer, and some stuff I'm leaving though, because I want the plants to shade the seeds that I'm sticking in the ground to kind of keep them cool so they're still moist longer. So I have, like I did in the square foot garden, which is where most of the spring action has taken place. I have broccoli in 2 square feet, and winter squash need 2 square feet per plant.
Okay. Yeah.
So what I did is, I don't even know if I did it right, but I'm pretty sure I did, is I took there's 4 square feet of broccoli, and in between where the square foot would meet, are you picking up what I'm putting down? Because I feel like it's getting confusing.
I got the shovel. I'm scooping it up. I'm putting it in a bucket. I'm with you.
Check. So in between the square feet, I put in a winter squash, and then the next 2 feet over, directly next to it, though, I put in there, because I only have I have 2 tomato cages left.
Okay.
And I have space for 4 plants. So I'm going to put a tomato cage in the middle of those 2 so that they can grow up, and I can tie them onto it and grow them vertically to save space.
In the middle of the 4 square feet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for the 2 plants. So there's 4 broccoli there, and in the middle, they're sitting there, and then they've just started to come up. So I'll go back out there probably tonight. And what I'm probably going to do actually is remove one of the broccoli. And then next week I'll probably remove the other broccoli, like one set and then one set. So then they will kind of get a little bit more sun. They kind of act a little shaded.
Are you planting a tomato transplant or a tomato seed?
Neither one.
Oh.
Winter
you said
squash.
You're going to put
a tomato cage for the winter squash to grow on.
Gotcha. Okay.
So this was the issue that I had with my garden, is doing the spring garden all in one bed. Is I knew that I would have to just wipe it out and start over. So it's been a real challenge for me to be like, well, what can I put in there now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what goes next? So,
but it's not all happening like on the same day. Like, I live for that. Like, I live for that clean slate.
Yeah, I wanted to do that, but when I'm doing seeds and stuff, because direct sowing seeds in the garden is tricky. You have to keep them moist and wet, whatever. I know some people don't like that word, but doing that, it makes it so I don't get a clean slate, but I feel like it's a safer process.
Sure. Yeah,
So.
I hadn't thought about the idea of plants that are already there shading kind of the new thing you're planting, whether it's a seed or a transplant. So that's really smart. I don't know if I'll be able to have that. Yeah, of course. I don't know if I'll have that discipline though. So
if you want it bad enough, you will.
Well, that's life. So again, I don't know if I'll have that discipline. So I wanted to share good news because we talked about it doesn't matter. So I had 60 tomato transplants. I know I told you this, but I don't know if I've told the audience this. And my calculations, I have a little posted here. I've given away 35 tomato transplants.
Beautiful.
And I'm still, 25 left or something? I'm still going to probably plant not even quite half of those. So I still have some giving away to do. And there's something about...
And who did you give them to?
Well, I gave them to my mail lady, a couple of neighbors, a person that was delivering food to one of my neighbors,
Nice.
a person that was buying a puppy from one of my neighbors. And when I say neighbors, I mean on my direct block, like, a house or 2 down. And then there is a woman I met last year that we talked about my garden, and she came by and we were just chatting. And I gave her probably a dozen tomatoes. She won't plant all of them, but she has some family members that'll add them to their garden. So the Batavia Be Better Garden, B as many call me, the plant babies will be all around the city of Chicago. So it's exciting.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to say what my suggestion was, not to get on your case, but so everybody else knows, because, going on Instagram and stuff like that, I've seen a trend of people just like you, starting way too many tomato plants, and they don't know what to do with them. And if you're in that process right now, contact a community garden, contact somebody who, an organization that would grow something, and give them the tomato plants, just see if they want them, because chances are you've taken better care of them than your big box stores has. So that's a good option to do.
Yeah, and that's still on the list of things to do. So just to be fair, I knew I was growing more tomatoes in the grow room than I would ever plant. It was very intentional for 2 or 3 reasons. One, if you go back to kind of what we're doing different in our garden based on the coronavirus earlier this year, one of the things that I was doing was growing more to be able to give away for those that want a garden or have a garden that maybe didn't have didn't have as many transplants or whatever have you. So check mark, right? And I also was growing more because I probably didn't say this, just the nervousness. I didn't know what would take and what didn't. Remember, I'm a kale, collard green, cabbage killer. So who knew that all of the transplants that I started, I actually, I started 72 total. And maybe 2 or 3 didn't make it, like didn't germinate or were very sickly. And then I ended up just deciding that this wasn't worth me potting up when I potted it up. So that's how I got down to 60. So yeah, I mean, it was intentional. Will I start 60 transplants or 70 transplants next year or seeds? I mean, I'm not making any commitments. I don't know. Maybe. It's a good feeling to be able to give something like that, especially because tomatoes are so popular to others.
I mean, it's the number one fruit to grow because it is a fruit.
Yeah, absolutely it is. It is a fruit. You heard it here for the 88th time.
Millionth time.
Yeah. So I say the community garden idea, which was Ben shared this idea with me and suggested this, I don't know, maybe last week or something. So that absolutely still is on the to do because, I mean, I didn't even count. I don't even want to count how many pepper plants I started. So there's a theme here. I will definitely have more to give away, as it relates to what I started. And I believe for me, peppers were the easiest thing to start. And again, same theme of not knowing what was going to take, not knowing what wasn't going to take. I didn't get my timing just right for that. So some of the things I've started or I've planted, gosh, we could talk about me having planted things now. We could talk about things growing in my garden now. That's exciting.
Finally.
So some of the transplants are really small. Others are very sizable, and you could see the difference. I started some on March the 15th. I started others almost a month later, like April the 11th or 12th or something like that. And you could see the difference in their growth. So I put them in the ground anyway. So yeah, I have a couple of other updates around that too, but
yeah, what's sick? I'm already thinking about what seeds I'm going to grow in the winter.
Yeah. I'm so glad I'm not there yet.
Well, no, the reason, because this kind of goes to the whole flower thing. But as I look forward, I'm like, okay, what's easier to grow? Because, I had a hard time growing. Like I tried to grow lavender and I had a really hard time getting stuff to grow. And apparently they're not the easy, a lot of perennial seeds are not the easiest to start. So I've kind of started thinking about that already. And then going on in that direction, I'm thinking next year, what I'm thinking about mostly is my timing. Because I'm like you, my timing was it was jacked up, man. It was not, I mean, I remember because we you and I had kind of spent a lot of time kind of building this podcast up during that time and planning a lot of things, and time got away from me.
Yeah.
And this year it can't do it. So I think I'm going to have to start like my peppers in like January. You know what I mean? Because when I put them out, they were so small. Yeah. But they're starting to come now. I mean, we're starting to get some heat.
Yeah. So I don't know. I should have brought a tomato plant in here. I don't know if I thought I got my tomato plants the timing wrong. So, I mean, it's 6 in one hand, a half a dozen in the other. So I started them on like, I don't know, sometime in April. I don't remember the exact timing now. And when I potted them up, they were kind of small. And I was right at the point where I could have put them outside then. And I was kind of like, oh, they're kind of small. So now you fast forward a couple of weeks and they're huge. They're like, they need to be in someone's garden. They need to be in someone's ground now. And so now I'm saying, well, my timing was right. But was it? Because technically I'm planting the first week of June. So if you start to kind of rewind and say, I could have probably gotten this stuff in the ground easily mid-May, which meant that they would have been smaller than I wanted and so on and so forth. So for that, I mean, it's 60 of them, 70 of them or whatever have you. I'm not so worried about that, the tomatoes, like I'll figure that piece out. But the timing for everything else, like I put all of that in the back of my mind because I just don't have the capacity to work through that now when it comes to 2021. But I know I have some adjustments to make. I actually realized, and I want to talk about the flowers, that I haven't started nearly enough flower seeds. And I think there was a part of me that said, I was most concerned about growing food, clearly, right? But there was a part of me that said, well, the more you have to grow, the more you start, the more you have to harden off, the more you have running under lights and all of that stuff. So I was going to start a bunch outside. That's still my plan, but it hurts. It hurts not having flowers in my garden, other than the perennials that are coming back up. Like I would
what
normally.
Are perennials?
They're your best friend. Yeah. It's going to be drinking to that too now. So I have, I visited, not so much the nurseries because they haven't opened so much in my area, but I visited the big box stores and they have flowers out and it's a happy place for me. And so there was a moment where I was saying, oh, I'm going to start everything from seed. Nothing in my garden is going to be bought. And now I don't know if I'm going to get through the month without buying flowers because they make me so happy. And I need something in between now and when I sow the seeds that I plan on sowing outdoors.
Do you want me to be really mean?
I'm not asking for feedback.
No. Yeah, maybe. I don't know what it's considered.
I don't want to hear what you're about to say. I don't.
30 tomatoes instead of 60 and you could have had 30 flowers. That's it.
Oh, okay. I could.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I could take that.
That's not mean.
I thought you were going to say something like, "Don't buy flowers." No. Yeah, because you knew that would be like tearing out my garden heart.
No.
Oh gosh! Don't even get me started to I quite literally hadn't done that math.
Yeah, I know, and it's because I did mine this year, and I think part of my problem was I did half vegetables, half flowers, and half of those flowers failed and I knew they were going to fail and I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing and I didn't take my own advice where it's like just scrap it and moving on.
Why do you think they failed though?
Probably because I just bought seeds that I had no business trying to grow from seed. Like some things I really do believe like are just meant to be grown in the wild. You know
That's
what I mean?
That's a really
like,
good point. Yeah.
Like lavender. For instance, everybody I know that tried to grow lavender, they're like, man, it's been 12 weeks and nothing's happened. And I'm like, I just don't think that it's supposed to grow.
That's my rosemary story. One of my good girlfriends, and we've exchanged garden tips over the years. She's like, oh, I saw your grow room tour. And she's like, oh, I have a couple of ideas for you. And she was talking specifically about rosemary because my rosemary is like...
Yeah, it's really slow growing.
Yeah. And so she said that she basically buys like a rosemary plant. I think she said, I could pull it up if I knew which screen I would pull it up from. But she buys a plant like maybe in the fall or something, and then she just tries to overwinter it. But the interesting thing is I actually accidentally did that. I had a rosemary plant from last year that's still in the backyard garden that was in the one bed that I consistently had plastic over. And I'm saying that because I believe that's the reason why I didn't completely die off. Because I've read about, rosemary being a perennial depending on your weather. But anywho, it's out there producing rosemary and has been. So the reality is I was starting rosemary because it felt like that's a herb that I wanted to start. But luckily I already have something out there because whatever I started, I mean, I'm thinking like 2022, 2023 or something at this
it's
rate.
It's probably too cold in your area for rosemary to be a perennial.
Well, no, I'm telling you that it came back. I think if I keep it covered, that it can come back as a perennial.
Yeah, but it would like come back and regrow, right? It wouldn't like hold over the size it was. Yeah. See, like mine doesn't go away. It just gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
bigger.
yeah. Good point. Good point. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I've heard
I mean,
about like monstrous rosemary plants in bushes almost. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like a thing too, where it's like, yeah, it's a perennial, but rosemary is a really good one too, because in this conversation, because it takes a long time for it to grow. So like your best bet really is just go out and buy the damn plant. You know what I mean? Like as much as it hurts and you're like, oh, I want to be like self-sustaining and I want to do everything on my own, you know? And I think that by doing that, you're going to have a plant. You're going to guarantee you have a plant. You know, all you got to do is take care of it and water it.
Yeah. So the only thing, and I don't feel that way about, oh, I must, right? But when I looked at, and I have some video footage somewhere around here, when I looked at all of my plant babies on my deck, and I thought on one hand, like, clearly I wouldn't have purchased that many starters. Like, there's no way I purchased 60 tomato plant starters, right?
You'd be broke.
Yeah.
You would never, ever recoup that money off your crop.
Absolutely never. But I bring it up because I thought about all of the plants that I normally do purchase, the veggie plants, starter plants that I do purchase. And I was saying to myself, it was work, don't get me wrong, but I didn't do the actual calculation. But I looked and I was satisfied because I realized the money that I saved. And the way that I kind of compute things is that's money that I could spend the $2 or the $3 on a rosemary plant if I didn't already have one, right? You know.
Yeah, since we're talking about money, first of all, how's your snow peas doing?
You know what? I want to. One, there is now a recorder in my front yard, because two, like I'm ready to pull them up. Like so, they're about, let's see, arm size. So they're about that tall, whatever that length is. But I'm wondering if it's going to get too hot for them.
No.
Okay.
What's the temperature right now?
It's going to be 90 degrees today. It's warmer than it would normally be. Yeah.
Yeah, mine are still going, but you'll see that. Shoot them some fertilizer.
Okay. Good idea.
Boom. So I went out and I harvested peas last week. And if anybody doesn't know, I've decided that I'm going to start putting recipes out of stuff in my garden on my Instagram. Once a week, I'm going to cook a dish and I'm going to put something on there. For the simple fact that I feel like people grow food in a garden, but they don't know exactly how to use it sometimes. And I don't, that sounds like a dick thing to say though. Let me rephrase that. I feel like other than salads, the stuff that you grow in your garden can get overlooked at times, right? Some of these some of these vegetables are kind of difficult to like squash. Like how many different ways can you cook a yellow squash? Like you just think off the top of your head, right? Not a whole lot.
Maybe 3. Yeah. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. So then just trying to like give other ways to make it, because some of these stuff, so like snow peas, for instance, this year, I'm fucking doing amazing snow pea crop this year. I harvested $12 worth of snow peas last week.
Oh, so, okay. See, now you're talking. Now
we're talking business. Yeah. So I paid for the seeds, which I have 3 years worth of seeds left. So I easily paid for 3 years of seeds. I paid for one of the trellises, which will also be used to trellis 2 other crops and hopefully another crop of snow peas in the fall. So if you start putting it...
I feel like like on the cartoons where your head is doing the math and it's like explosion, but it's explosion because I'm so excited about this. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, if you think about it that way. And so like when you grow lettuce, for instance, like lettuce is pretty cheap at the grocery store. So, and I think that's one reason why tomatoes are so popular though, because you have to, you look at the amount of weight that is taken in, and because weight is cost for produce.
Sure.
So when we do that, and I'm like, man, I'm harvesting these snow peas, and I was like, I gotta have 3 pounds of snow peas. I go and I got like a quarter pound, but I'm getting a quarter pound every day.
Yeah.
So, it adds up, or every other day, something like that. So it's like, what, $5.99 a pound for snow peas? I think last time I went to go buy them. But so that being said, like now I have all of these snow peas that I have to eat. Well, really, the most common way is to saute snow peas or eat them raw. So I'm trying to get creative and find other ways to cook them to share with other people. So, it's kind of an interesting way to do it. And squash is another thing. That's why I don't grow squash, because I get straight up tired of eating it.
Yeah.
I think we have 5 ways to cook squash, and that's like maxed out to the brim. Like, as I think about it, I'm like, ugh, I can't even imagine eating another squash. You know what I mean?
It's kind of a bland veggie to begin with. But the reason why I say that I didn't agree with, like, I do know that a lot of people think gardens and think kind of salads and stuff. So I know that there's that kind of stigma almost with it. But when it comes to the ways that you eat things, a common question I get about my garden for years is, what do you do with all that food? So it's the same thing that you're trying to address, right? So they aren't necessarily saying, in part they're saying like the volume of it, but like, they're almost also asking like, all right, literally a friend of a friend who we happen to realize that lives down the street from me stopped, and based on me sitting, we're in my front yard garden, right? So I'm literally, in my front yard sitting on, a milk crate. Someone commonly pulls up on the street side, right? So we're close enough for me to be able to talk to them from the street. And so he was asking, because I was planting peppers, 90%. That's how I got to 90% of the front yard garden being planted. So I was planting peppers, and he was asking me how many plants did I have, and planted. So you can kind of see them from the distance. And I started counting, and I was just like, yeah, I may have overdid it. But I said that to say, I know he's asking because he's kind of thinking about like, okay, X number of pepper plants, like what are you going to do with all of those? But anywho, I really like the concept of this is a way during the season, even like this is how I'm using this thing. Yeah. Because I hope that it will lead to people trying the recipe. I hope that it will lead, my favorite part, and my hope is that it will lead to people saying, oh, maybe I'll grow that next year or whatever have you. Yeah.
Well, I think, when you go to the grocery store and hold on. First of all, when I said that originally, I guarantee you it came out way differently than my head was telling me. So,
it did. Yeah. It was a pure, it was a dick move. Yeah. You got it right when you, that's the way I heard it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I know what your intention was. Yeah.
Yeah. My intention is not, but and to kind of clarify that is like, if you go to the grocery store, and let's talk about tomatoes, how many tomatoes are you going to buy at the grocery store? 3 for the week? Something like that.
It's my favorite besides potatoes. But normally you may buy, if you're going to buy them for the week or the next couple of weeks, no more than 4, I would imagine.
Right. And then you go out in your garden and you get 8 in one day. Well, what do I do? 8 in one day. One day, and it's like, wow, what do I do now? So then, how many tomato sandwiches can one eat? You know what I mean?
If it starts to catch up with you really quickly when that harvest finally starts to come in.
Did you get that?
The tomato sandwich?
Catch up. Ah, she
sometimes
did it.
I can't even pick up on my brilliance. Yeah.
But that's the trick though, because you have to eat this stuff as it comes. Right?
Well, in part. So that is a really good point when it comes to when I had a smaller garden and I really wanted, while I always want to expand because that's just the way I'm wired. There was a part where it was I only grew 2 tomato plants because I knew I could only consume so many fresh tomatoes. But that was me, and that was where I needed to be in that space in my gardening life. But then you kind of fold in. Are you going to steal the joy?
No, but can you only consume 2 plants worth? Or is that all you know how to prepare them to consume to where you can take it?
So I think I said 2 plants worth fresh.
Yeah.
All right. So the distinction I'm making is obviously we've talked, here and there about preserving, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there some other option where I can consume them?
When you talk about cooking with them, you know what I mean? So I only know, like I told you about squash.
You mean
I only
me
know
personally? I only have a handful
like
of.
you only
I got you,
know a few ways to consume it. Because for me, it's like, okay, tomatoes. Like I can put them on the grill. I can mix them in a pasta dish. I can do this. I can do that. And I'm not talking about preserving because that's a whole different beast.
Sure.
And hopefully people practice that. But maybe people don't even want to do that, and that's totally fine. But that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like for me, for squash, like I only know 3 ways.
Yeah.
And like, I say that back. I know 5 ways, but I don't like those 5 ways. So do I grow it again in order to find more? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think there's a couple that you mentioned that's in your area where they've gone from having a small garden to like a really big garden to like now kind of a more basic, smaller garden. And we talked briefly about why we thought that. And so there is definitely there's some trial and error in my gardening that I'm doing right now. Like every day, that's what I'm doing. I want to see, maybe I will want to have a garden full of snow peas. I don't know, right? Don't know until you try it. So I think that's timing. I think that is the bail for a break. No, I'm sure it's just the mail person dropping something off. So anywho, I think that I lost my train of thought now. Oh, yeah. So the older couple, they've probably pared back to what they really are going to consume. So I have started 72 tomatoes, pared it down to 60. I'm probably going to plant 8 or 9, which is more than I really need to plant, but I can't help myself. There's probably going to be a time in my future where I have 1 or 2 tomato plants at best, right? At most, right?
Right.
So, it comes and goes, right? So, long and short of it, I appreciate you introducing me to more ways to use and consume tomatoes, because you're going to get tomatoes much quicker than I will.
I'm going to get tomatoes. Maybe today I might have my first tomato. Yeah, I might have my first cherry tomato today, and by the end of the week or next week, I should have regular tomatoes. So, yeah. And the only reason why I'm having my regular tomatoes so late is because I put out little baby ones. So, but I mean, the whole recipe thing.
Wait. I'm not a jealous person. However, I'm struggling with moving on from you having tomatoes of any sort the first week of June.
Oh, and I have husk tomatoes that'll be ready today too. My ground cherries, they'll be ready today.
I'm going to edit this. I'm going to edit this video.
You ain't editing shit.
Yeah, in this episode, because I'm going to pull that out because I feel like you're just being a show off, right?
No.
You are. It's almost disrespectful, right? No, that's the first tomato.
Okay,
it's literally celebration worthy for me in my house.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to take your shoe off and stick it in your mouth after I say what I'm about to say. I have purposely pulled off flowers to try and hold off some of my harvest until you can. That's how much of a friend you are to me. I've purposely pulled off flowers off of my tomatoes to try and hold it off. So go ahead.
Listen.
Stick your shoe in your mouth.
Oh, good gosh. It's going to be 90 degrees. I'm not in shoes anymore, but listen now.
Yeah, that's true. Shoes are optional.
I'm going to transition before I actually do start crying. And I'm going to say that I've had been in my head in my garden as I've been pulling off itty bitty pepper flowers.
You're going to be happy.
Because, my plants are like, the biggest plants are about that big, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they're going to get bigger. And I just have to keep on telling myself they're going to get bigger. Let them get bigger. Give them an opportunity to get bigger. And it's easier once the flowers are a little bit easier than everything else. Like, stopping the growth of something else, or that's what it feels like you're doing.
Right.
But I've done that with the plants that I've put out. And I know I'm going to be happy with it because at this point, the itty bitty baby ones, they don't have anything. They're not producing anything. But the other ones that are like, you've seen them in the stores. We've talked about this, how they already start to have flowers budding. And I'm just like picking them off, putting them in my garden apron because I'm cleaning up as I go along. I listen to the lessons that we give out.
I throw mine right. I'd bury them in the dirt.
Oh, do you? Yeah.
Yeah, stick them right back in the compost. But you want to keep doing that until they're like that big.
Yeah, really bushy.
So,
hopefully really bushy and big. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a while, but I promise you'll be happier if you do it. It's kind of, it's one of those things, man, you know, and that's kind of a theme that I've been going along lately is tough decisions in the garden. You know, there's tough decisions that need to be made sometime that go against the grain.
Yeah.
So, you know, the last video I did is where I pulled up a sick plant and threw it out. What?
I'm letting you know that I have something to add once you get done.
I know.
But you can continue.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. Tough decision.
So, you know, it's like it's a hard thing to do because everybody wants to save it. And it was advice that I got last year from a horticultural expert to pull it up and get rid of it. And if I didn't do it, I would be looking her in the face and slapping her. So, you know, I have to do it. And it does make sense, though, because it's just not going to do it. So last year, actually, and this has been a great saga of me and growing Brussels sprouts, too.
Okay, yeah.
So last year I grew them, and I didn't realize the temperature requirements. And they just, all summer, they just kind of sucked. And they were all in one bed. So I grew them all in one bed. They were like falling apart. And I was like, I'm going to save them. I'm going to do it. And in return, what did I do? I wasted an entire bed in a small garden.
Yeah.
So this year I'm like, cut it out. You know what I mean? We're done. So it's kind of one of those things, but I feel like, and it's a very unpopular topic.
Yeah,
you know,
very much so.
Yeah, people don't want to do that, and I get it, you know, because that's your baby. But yeah.
Well, let me tell you, in a similar vein, so the front yard garden, the biggest beds are like 10 feet long, and you know, and we've talked about lessons learned before. You and I have. One of my issues is overplanting. You know, crowding things. Yeah. Oh, stop it. Oh, no, not. Well, I guess it's all the same thing. It totally is all the same thing, right? Yeah, so I was like, all right, quick check. How far apart should these peppers be? And I literally planted them. And I thought about it while I was eating dinner that evening. And I said, you're doing it here. You're doing it again. Because these were so small. And so again, that eye is telling me, oh, they can be closer together. And I'm consciously also saying they're going to get bigger, but it's like, oh, it's okay to put them closer together. So I literally went back and pulled, I think I had 4 in a section. I went back and pulled one up. The reason why it's in the similar vein, I was just going to cut it. But then I said, you know, I put it in yesterday. You know, it really hasn't started to spread its wings or whatever. So I just put it in another starter pot. And then I moved it over to give them each some space. And there probably still could be. I mean, that's the thing, with the exception of like the shading out that plants do. Plants want the most space, right? You know?
Yeah.
So I could have given them even more space. This is going to be a really good end sentence. Moving on. This is going to be a really good experience this year for me, because this will help me understand how many plants are really reasonable. We know 60 isn't. 10 probably isn't for tomatoes, but peppers as an example. This is the whole how much to grow, which is going to be an upcoming episode in 2022, 2023 or something like that. But that's what I'm experiencing now. I'm going through that kind of, you know, trial and error now. So since I knew I had still so many pepper plants, I was trying to squeeze them all in. And then I had to stop myself and say, just because you grew it doesn't mean you need to plant it.
Hey, are you having an earthquake?
It's painful. It's painful for me to say that.
Are you having an earthquake?
No.
Are you beating on the desk?
Oh, maybe so.
Yeah, I'm getting nauseous watching you. So
sorry.
She's very passionate.
Yeah, very much so.
You ever watch The Office?
Of course, yes.
And when Dwight goes to give the speech, and they're like, "You have to do it like this and pound on them like Stalin," and that's what you're doing right now.
You're
getting passionate.
Sorry, guys.
Well, you know, and that kind of goes backwards too. When I ask, like, how many how many pepper plants you put in the front yard?
I mean, 20 maybe.
Okay, you put 20 pepper plants in your front yard.
Maybe.
So hold on. I'm going back in my Rolodex. You don't even really like peppers.
No, I do like peppers.
No, you told me.
No.
Either on the podcast or in private, one of the ways that you don't really like peppers that much.
Nope. What? Oh, maybe I did. What I think I told you was, as I go back into our recorded conversations, what I think I told you originally was peppers have been hard for me to grow, meaning I don't get a lot of peppers off of the plant.
Oh,
right?
you may
Like,
have.
well,
You
no,
may not
no,
have
no. Let me
clarified.
finish. Let me finish. So
Yeah.
I said that, and that's when you gave me the recommendation, which I did take you up on. Planting. I have a bunch of peppers near the tomato cage that I plan on planting my tomatoes in. But I do think I also said like peppers are one of those things. Like I love all kinds of different hot peppers. You know, my body doesn't necessarily agree with them, you know, but that's another
Right.
conversation. But when it comes to like
Not for
bell
this
peppers and
podcast.
things, yeah. For bell peppers and things, I eat as many as I buy, and I don't buy them because they're super expensive. I don't buy them often,
Yes.
right? You know, so when I realized last year that, and it's just a beautiful thing watching a pepper grow.
Yes.
Watching it change colors, watching it get larger and all of that. And so I realized last year that I wanted to plant more peppers. But more means for me, like all of them. Like, again, clearly I have some limitation issues. Like I can't limit myself. So I know that I've overplanted peppers.
Well, hold
I
on.
know that I've sown too many pepper seeds, and I'm overplanting peppers. But I'm also cautious because I don't know how many peppers the plant's going to produce. You're raising your hand. Go ahead. I'm
Yeah,
starting to
of
get
course
defensive about the peppers.
You are, and
I'll
you're
take
going
the
to get
hit
even.
for the tomatoes. I'll take the hit for the tomatoes, but not for the peppers.
You're about to get more defensive too. So let's go based on. I'm gonna base it on my averages, and I usually get 3 to 4 peppers a week off a plant. What are you gonna do with 80 peppers a week? How are you gonna eat them?
I guess you'll have to tune in to a new episode of the Backyard Gardens podcast to find out.
That silence was deafening. That was the loudest silence I've ever heard. So that's
I hate
But
garden
that's-
science and garden logic.
but that's what I'm talking about though. You know what I mean? Because I guarantee 80 peppers, well, first of all, you'd have to really like peppers, but let's say realistically 6 pepper plants you planted and you're getting 24 peppers a week. There's a way to eat them, but you got to get creative.
I
You
don't
know
feel
what
like
I
I'm going to
mean?
get 20 peppers or 80 peppers a week.
If it gets hot and they're happy, I'm telling you, I had my peppers next to my tomatoes last year. I've never had so many peppers ever. And they produce all the way up until the first frost consistently.
So the peppers that I have up front so far, and I really have to defend myself here because remember, my
Please.
front yard garden is 90% planted. We haven't talked about my backyard garden.
No, I wasn't gonna go
Well,
into
let
that
me just
today.
put this as a disclaimer. And so if you believe that I have stuff to plant in my backyard garden, do you want to take a wild guess at the things I'm planting back there? Just one of them.
Well, I know one that's not
Do you really
kale.
think? Yeah. I was literally looking at my seeds for the kale and saying, like, I feel like I just want to, like, am I walking into disappointment? Should I just start again? I'm actually going to start kale from seed outdoors and see what the heck it does. But you didn't pick up on the bait. I have more pepper plants. So moving
did.
on. Yeah.
I just didn't jump in.
Yeah. So I have a mixture of the front yard snack peppers, which in my mind, I'm
Oh,
planting
those little
in-
ones?
Yeah, planting
Oh,
those, and
Those
yeah.
are fire.
Yeah, and I want to be able to take a pepper off the plant as I'm gardening and eat them, right? I have a bunch of this could be a lie. I have a bunch of hot peppers and a bunch, specifically jalapeno peppers, and a bunch of like bell peppers, sweet peppers or whatever. So almost all the jalapeno peppers I plan on canning. Right? Like I have big plans for those. And every year I start to like kind of notch it up as far as how many I plant, because like last year I just didn't get enough in my mind for what I wanted to do. Now the bell peppers are the only ones that I will admit that I probably am putting more in the ground than any human being needs. But we're going to see.
First of all, you didn't clarify that you were growing the snack types and bell peppers. So that's your first problem.
Well, no. So
You gotta clarify.
It's not my problem because
It's my
you
problem.
pounced on me and told me that I'm going to have to start, like, instead of a blood drive, it's going to be a pepper drive or something to get rid
Yeah.
of the 800 peppers that I have. But no,
I
it
did,
absolutely is a mixture.
I did grow those last year and I didn't do well.
Which
It was
ones?
depressing. The little ones, the little snack ones, those are really good, but
Yeah.
it was depressing. So,
and you want to know what? Guess what? So in addition to, so while I am trying to give tomato plants away, guess what's happening in my front yard garden? I have a neighbor that not 1 but 2 days has brought down a plant for me. Like literally.
That's awesome, though.
Listen, it's such a beautiful thing. The first day we chatted for a good while. She brought it down. She had asked me about them earlier in the spring, and she had them indoors, and I knew it was too cold to put out the peppers, and so I just assumed she would like keep them in a sunny spot. She had bought them. You know how we've talked about this. This big box stores have them to sale, right? You know, it's like March, and in Chicago, for me, I wouldn't recommend planting peppers in March. Right. I could be exaggerating a little bit. Maybe it was April. But anywho, you don't want to just step on anyone's joy, especially not their hashtag garden joy. So what was I supposed to tell her? Go and take them back? I said, well, no, keep them in a sunny spot, keep them watered, And so then I realized this weekend that she was actually going to plan on growing them inside, which I know there's a whole group of people that do that, but I'm pretty sure she's not one of those folks. So anywho, I was coming from the backyard and I saw her at my gate and she had a plant in her hand and I said, uh-oh. And it was still alive, right? And so she said, oh, I wanted to give this to you. I said, oh, thank you. Like, you got to put it in your yard. You have to put it in your garden. You can't say no, thank you, right? So I planted it. The next day I'm in the garden and her son comes down. He's just smiling. He has another plant in his hand. So I have both a cayenne pepper plant from her and a regular bell pepper plant. But you know what? This is how things work. I actually have one of my ideas, which may or may not end up happening this year. I would love to have a friends and family bed since I have 828 beds. So a garden bed that I can dedicate to things that I'm growing for someone else. And she's quite literally kicked off that idea. So I actually planted those. I changed my plan, which is, I guess I change them all the time. I put those 2 plants that she gave me right at the front of the garden bed. So as she walks by or she comes down, she can see them growing. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope they do well.
There's actually a name for that.
Is there a whole...
It's called share a row.
Share a row? Oh, let me make a note of that.
Where you plant a row and you give that away. That's the row you give away. Mm-hmm. So we did it last year and it worked out pretty good. But then when I redesigned it, I totally overlooked it. So one of my eggplants and one of my bell pepper plants are going to be part of that. Just share. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but no. And and the thing too, though, is if somebody, let's say I put, 500 bell pepper plants in my front yard. And then my neighbor was sweet enough to come give me a bell pepper plant. I would rip one of my bell peppers out and put theirs in it. So when they came up, check out your bell pepper. Your bell pepper's doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I literally had already, when her son came the second day, I'd already planted peppers in that spot. So it's crazy. I actually dug it up and planted again. The second pepper plant she brought down here, or she sent him down.
How old is her son?
Her son, she told me, he's 11.
Okay, so he's young. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, so how cool is that, man? And
yeah, I know. Don't get me emotional. Don't start. Start.
I'm going to. Yeah. I'm going there. That's what brings me into this whole gardening thing, though, is it's a sense of community. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They were pure happiness. They brought that to you to grow.
Yeah.
And you know what? They probably know you don't need that bell pepper.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? They probably know you don't need that, but they wanted to give that to you because it made them happy, made them feel good, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. So I have another story like that. I have a neighbor from...
Why are you so sappy today? You got all these sappy stories.
It's 90 degrees. It's I've actually planted this is like garden Christmas for me. Well, maybe not. Maybe
garden
so. Anyway.
New Year.
So garden New Year's. Anywho, real quick, a neighbor from maybe a block or 2 blocks down, because there's a lot of foot traffic, and a lot of car traffic too in front of my house. And last year I was building the front yard garden out. So I was out there a lot and I chatted with a lot of people. So anywho, she was one of the folks I chatted with. And I'm going to insult her because I'm going to say she's my age, but that's my attempt to pretend like I'm younger than I am. But I'm sure she's younger than me. But anyway, she after we had chatted a couple of times, she came down one day and said she had this basil plant. Someone at work had given it to her, and she's like, what am I going to do with it? She's like, oh, I know who I could give it to. And I promise you, if I wasn't like crying in my garden apron out front, so it absolutely, there is a bigger picture here. I don't talk about it much here, but there's a bigger picture here. Like, it's not, oh, I needed to grow more food, so I took it to the front yard. Like, it's just not that. I could have bought a garden plot somewhere if I really wanted to grow more instead of digging up my front yard. Like, there's a bigger purpose to all of this, and there are little seeds that are being dropped, and people are seeing it, and without me even telling them, and it's a beautiful thing. So that's what I'm saying.
It is a beautiful thing. It's excellent, and it's special.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a real special thing. So
you still shouldn't start 60 like tomato plants.
I've actually seen a lot of people with, that's like the magic number apparently.
Is it? Yeah.
Like 50 to 60 to 70 plants. And I'm like, why did you start so many? You know, and it's like, I mean, I get it if you're going to can, but if you have no intention on canning, which a lot of people don't, like, that's a crazy amount, man. It's insane.
Well, there's also, and so I was actually keeping this in mind as I was giving these away, right? So if you're not a gardener, you don't necessarily equate a tomato plant that may be that big, right, with how many tomatoes is going to produce, one. Two, you don't necessarily get the spacing that tomato plants really need, right?
Right.
And so as a gardener, for me, I know it and I still fight it. But if you don't have, ideally, if you don't have 30 feet to plant, you don't need 10 tomato plants. No. So,
wait.
So yeah.
That's not true.
I'm estimating,
square foot gardening rules.
It's 9 square feet. How many is that? Ooh, yeah.
4 square feet.
No, it's 3 square feet.
No, 2 square feet.
It's no square feet. You plant them in the air between the garden bed and between the sky. Like
I don't know. I did the math before. I think it was 2 square feet per plant.
No, actually it's 9.
Read.
I looked it up recently.
9 square feet per plant. So I could only put. I must be doing something wrong. I must be having a major brain fart because I know that I didn't ever plant. Am I doing it wrong? No, it's 4 square feet per plant is what I gave it.
Oh, okay. That's what you gave it. Yeah.
Yeah. Per plant is what I gave it. So, yeah, that makes sense. Man, that was confusing. Mm-hmm. Did you see this? Well, you can't see the smoke come out of my ears because I got headphones on, but it got tough. So.
But it doesn't matter because your tomatoes are producing tomatoes. Your plants are producing tomatoes this week.
Yeah, hopefully.
Oh, don't walk it back now.
No, well, I do have to say this. I never count my chickens until they all come home.
I hear you.
So, you got to make sure. Now, I think we totally got derailed off the garden update. But
this is all a part of... Well, yeah, no. Yeah,
we definitely got it. I think we covered like 5 podcasts already. There goes back to the drawing board. But... No, I went outside today and my petunias have aphids. So they have been treated.
Okay, good.
No big deal. A little shot of neem oil. And that should take care. I'll come back in, I think it's 8 days and treat them again with neem oil to get all the babies. I have bought more. So, okay, remember I told you I did the shed project where I organized my shed and made it look all fancy. I found a bunch of flower pots that I'd never used. So I filled them up. They're all filled now. I have fuchsia. And then I have Sunstar something or other in it. I have, I forgot the name of the flower now. A pink flowered succulent. I can't remember the name. And I paired that with a zinnia seeds that I put in there. And then what I did is I needed some spillers. So I went into the bed around my porch and I have creeping Jenny and sedum growing, and I just pulled some out and stuck it in there for a quick fix. And then I also have a big pallet that I'm not using for anything, and I think I'm going to break it up and make a flower box out of it and put that somewhere. So as of right now, my spring flower season's done. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get like a fall annual to put in there, fall flowering annual. And then next year I'll probably revisit that and try and put some chrysanthemums or something in there next year. But so I'm going to get a little creative on that one.
I'm like stroking my head. I'm just like, it's a look of concern on my face, but it's a mixture of jealousy for two reasons. Because I'm glad you brought it back around to flowers. One, I'm jealous because how good of a job you do to hold this stuff back when we talk. Like that's literally, we could have done the full update on that
So
alone.
I literally cannot put anything on anywhere because I have to hide it from you so that we can have these natural reactions for everybody.
Organic, yeah.
Like, you don't understand. Like, I'm like, I got to put something on Instagram and like, what am I doing right now? I'm like, well, I'm doing this, but I literally cannot put it on there.
Because you know that I am going to pounce on it and say, tell me more about it. Tell me more about it. So that is awesome. You've been really busy. So the second part of the jealousy is it ties into, I think I've almost made the decision. Like, I think that I'm going to do, clearly I don't need any more tomato plants. I don't need to buy those. I don't need to buy pepper plants, clearly. I think for veggies, I mean, you heard it here. If I don't get these seeds to germinate for kale, I'm going to buy some transplants at some point later this year with the goal of them coming in the winter, and or next spring. So that's going to happen. But I think for vegetables, I think I have more than enough to satisfy my growing needs, right? Flowers, not so much. So flowers, I will probably have, if I start everything from seed this week, which I won't, but if I did, I'd probably have a full garden sometime in July going into August.
Yeah.
But that hurts. That hurts.
Yeah, and we'll see. You have to think that's this year. Next year, you're going to start seeds indoors, so you have them earlier.
Yeah. So
You're
where
gonna
I'm
do
headed
that.
to is...
And I'm not even trying to like force it on you. I just know you, and that's what you're going to do.
Absolutely.
Because you've tested the waters. You've tested the waters now. And I really do believe that vegetable seeds are easier to grow than flower seeds.
I think so too, and that's the reason why I had some pause on even starting a bunch of flower seeds, because the veggie seeds, the packaging in most cases is very specific about what you should do. Like clearly the cabbage, collards, and kale of any variety aren't specific because I couldn't get it right. But everything else, right?
Right.
They tell you what to do, and it's pretty straightforward. And there are a lot more tools, right? And I had you where I can bounce stuff off when I was starting those. Flowers, it's kind of like, it's the wild, wild west. Like, good luck, It
is. It really is. And I think it's kind of a scam, though. I kind of think it might be a little bit of a scam.
Putting the hat on.
Yeah, I definitely, you know what? I'm making a tinfoil hat to keep next since we're recording video now.
Absolutely.
I'm going to wear it. But I definitely think that it's a little bit of a scam because, some things just are not, they can be very hard to grow. So what are you going to do? You know what I mean? Are you just going to okay, it didn't work. I'm going to try again. Okay, I'm going to wait 4 weeks. Oh, no, it didn't work. And then next thing you know, it's done. And then some things need to be cold before they grow.
Yeah.
So like I did my wildflower garden, right? And I was reading last night, I posted a picture of Instagram. I have 5 blooms. I'm like, yay, it's doing something. I'm successful. Because the way it's planted, I put annual wildflowers down and then perennial wildflowers down. And the annuals will shade the perennials and give them time to grow. They won't flower this year. They'll flower next year.
Okay.
So I was like, okay. And then I was reading about it. I was like, when do they all come in bloom? Because I don't know about wildflowers. And they were saying that you'll see, it kind of gave an order. And I can't give you the names because I forgot already. But basically what it said was you needed to put your seeds out in the fall and they need to get cold. And you're like, okay, what does that mean? So sorry, I accidentally answered a phone call and I just hung up on him. But so if you think about it, wildflowers grow, they seed, the seeds fall, they grow the next year. How do they grow the next year? From the seed, right?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, and they get cold, right? They go through a stratification process.
Yeah, yeah.
So they've
buying
grown
them that first year, yeah.
And they've been cold the whole winter, but yet I have to wait until after the frost to put the seeds out. What sense does that make?
I'm looking to see
Right.
if I have my wild flower patch here. I have a bunch of seeds, and I'll have to look at them more closely now.
But it's perplexing to me because
Yeah.
I'm like, that's how it works. Like even like bell peppers, they grow because they fall to the ground. If we take it back to the dinosaurs,
Yeah.
that's how things were,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's just
yeah.
how it is. So, I mean, I have watermelons that are coming back from seeds in my yard from last year.
Oh, that's cool, though. Yeah.
By the
But
way,
you know
they're
what?
healthier than the ones I planted this year.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do? So the premature confession is I think I'm going to do a mixture of store-bought flowers and starting flowers from seeds. And you and I both know that's totally okay, right? You know, the only regret I have is I could have been buying flowers 3 weeks ago because, you know, again, that makes me really happy. But
Yeah.
I struggle with the flower piece, and it's just one more thing. Next year, this time, I'll feel much more comfortable with it. I struggle with the flower piece when it comes to the seeds. There's some things that I know marigolds are super duper easy to start from seed. I see that. Zinnias are pretty easy to start from seed. Sunflowers are hit or miss. I've read that they prefer to actually be direct sowed. But there are like dozens of more flowers that I like. And I don't know if I'm at this point interested even next year with kind of playing that game with all of those. So maybe even a couple of years where I'm doing a mixture of I've started these indoors and, you know, I've actually bought these particular transplants, because a part of this again is the vegetables, there's joy in it, but there's a real purpose here. The flowers, with the exception of like those designed for pollinators, it's all joy for me. So I don't want to defer my joy, right? You know?
We are so different.
I know.
For me, there's a point to the flowers. I have two purposes. One is to cut flowers for my wife because I don't believe in buying flowers from the store cut because it's just dumb.
No, it's not.
It's not, but when
To
you
you,
grow
it
them,
is. Yeah.
yeah, to
I
me,
get you.
to me. And then two is pollinators. That's just that simple to me. Like, you know, and I mean, they do bring me joy. So I've also been deadheading some flowers too, which you
Which I
should
know
be proud
you're not
of me
a fan
for.
of, yeah.
Oh no, I hate doing it, but I've kind of figured out like, hey, you know, I'll go do a couple here and there if I miss one, you know, whatever. But just kind of keeping them going, because a lot of the ones, like I had bought some perennials this year and stuck them in, and they were already flowering when they're not really supposed to be.
Okay, because
So I
they're
was
supposed
like,
to come,
well-
and those are supposed to come back next year instead, right?
Yeah, so they would like flower around now, but they were flowering like a month ago. So I'm like, well, does that mean that they have like a finite bloom time?
Probably
You know what I
so.
mean?
Yeah.
So then I need to try and keep it going. So that's kind of where I was going with that. But, you know, for me, it's just trying to get the pollinators in. And it all started with the wildflower garden and then going from there. And that's really what it's about for me, is just trying to get more pollinators in and give them a space, because they are hurting. You know, there are bees and butterflies and all that stuff. So
a couple of things.
no.
And I'm looking at the time, and a couple means 4, so, you know, buckle up. I love flowers, and I'm going to plant more, and more will be bought and through seeds. 2, it's been a rough week already, and so there is remember the garden, front yard garden that's all flowers and all kinds of wildflowers and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's all bell peppers now.
No, someone else's front yard.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I drove past, and it just, I'm like, oh, thank goodness they're still at it. So beautiful. So again, one more version of it making me happy. So those are 2 things flower related, but I want to transition to something else. Let me know if you're done with flowers. If you're done talking about flowers.
I'm done.
Yeah. So I did just checks and balances because it's on my little note here. My little post-it. So hardening off. I just wanted to update folks that this was the
How
greatest
did you
fear
not
of
start off
mine.
with this?
It's literally number 1, but you bullied me to ask if I had planted things. So it was number 1 was hardening off.
We should have
Number
discussed
2
it beforehand.
was 60 tomato plants. Number 3 was front yard planting, 90% done. You see? Are you seeing the organization here?
So I went backwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
But
wait, so how was the process?
I'm just going to say, I'm going to make it quick since now we're, an hour and 15 minutes into this, right?
Yeah.
It was much
Is it that long?
easier. Much easier than I thought it was going to be. Do you have something to add?
No. I was
Okay,
looking at the
right.
time.
Okay, I thought that was the face like the record button wasn't on.
I do have something. I do have something to add, but it's not important.
Yeah, so it was something around like maybe 7, 8, 9 days total that I considered like, okay, now I'm ready to put them in the ground. And because the weather was cooler here, I didn't experience issues with like, oh, I had to make sure that I'm, keeping everything watered. Like now, right now, this is the danger zone for me. Like this is where we talked about, that's off topic. I'll come back to that. It wasn't hard. I actually broke rules and I hope I don't pay for it later.
Easy,
So,
Stalin.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, sorry. So I broke rules. Yes, I broke rules. And while I did the first couple of days, I was very much babying them. But after like the third day, I wasn't hauling that stuff back in my house. Like the very back part of my back deck is super shady most of the day. I did see on some of the flowers where some of the leaves were a little bit scalded, like the zinnia leaves or whatever. But everything else seemed to be a trooper. Yeah. So I'm not saying that, that's what I'll do next year as far as breaking those rules, but I didn't do like 15 minutes the first day and 30 minutes the next day and anything like that. So
You didn't?
I did not. It was more like an hour the first day. I brought the stuff in.
Oh wait, because you have shade.
Yeah, because I'm putting them in. Yeah, they were sitting in a shade, mostly shaded spot. And even when I was out there and I saw, like, I knew what time the sun was coming around, I ended up like putting them under the little couch area there. So all of that said, it was like day 3 when I started pulling them out just a little bit to get more sun. But they never went back in the house. They stayed after like day 2 or 3. They stayed outside the entire time.
I don't bring mine in unless it's going to get cold.
Yeah. What's
at
cold
night.
though?
So okay. When I did mine this year, I should have hardened off in phases, different plants at different times. So different plants would have had different times to come in, different temperature thresholds. But generally, like the first night, man, it was like 40 degrees. I'd bring it in or something, 45, something like it'd be pretty warm.
That's cold to me in my mind. The coldest it got was like 55 degrees. Yeah.
And relative speaking, coming out for winter. You know what I mean? Like 45-ish. I'd leave them out there, though, as long as I could and then bring them in before bed. But I think, too, what I was going to say is, putting them on your porch like that. And if, you got to keep an eye on them still. But if they're successful, then now you have a method in your space. Yeah. And that's really the trick, is finding that method. I have a table on my back porch with an umbrella in it. And then I just pull the umbrella up so I get shade all day. Yeah. And then I'll just kind of lower it and then I move it and all that stuff. So it's
so in all of the holes, so if we're rounding out, so I've turned off all of the grow lights besides the grow light that has, which I guess I could just pull the rosemary plant that's never going to grow this year and put it outside. But the grow room is officially going to be closed today. The thing that I was most afraid of, was the hardening off process. And I feel really good about it now. And it kind of goes back to the whole, I think I said this at some point on a video or even on this podcast, like the things that you think are the scariest or the most difficult sometimes just don't turn out to be that, and that's this whole process for me.
And I had an old boss and he told me one time, he was like, you know why I hired you? And I was like, why? He was like, because you're ignorant. And I was like, excuse me? Like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, because I can teach you the way I want to.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, okay. And I was like really scared to do some stuff. He's like, it's just because you're ignorant. Once you do it once, you'll get it. Now, granted, the word he used was not the most appropriate term. Yeah. But I was like, once he explained it to me, I would be like, okay, he's not really taking a shot at me. He's just saying, I don't know. Yeah. And that's the whole thing about
right? Yeah.
Yeah. But the whole thing was like, you didn't know. And that's what makes it scary. But now you know.
Yeah.
And knowing is half the battle. Yeah. Go G.I. Joe.
Absolutely. Well, asterisk, kale, collards, and,
yeah, well,
cabbage, but,
It's a
Who
learning
needs
curve.
those anyway, right?
You do. You do. Because you've been talking about them for months on this
Months
podcast.
now. That's how it is. There's this joke that it's, sometimes you have this self-talk, this, maybe not the most positive self-talk. Everyone says, oh, you're beautiful. That looks great. And then one person said, wait, why did you wear those shoes? And all you can focus on is that person that said, why'd you wear those shoes? So it's like, freaking got 60 tomato transplants. Like, I'm winning, right? So yeah, it's just, there's a part of me that also gardens for the challenge, like this is something new. This is something when it talks, starting seeds as an example, like let's see what happens. So I would have loved for everything to absolutely have made it, including the kale, collards, and cabbage, but it didn't. But I'm not going to give up. Maybe this year.
Right.
I'm not sure. We'll see.
Yeah, it's, I'm having a hard time with my cilantro is bolted already.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm letting it go. So hopefully it'll reseed. Mm-hmm. I'm having a hard time with that. And a lot of things that I started in that area, I don't really water it as much as I should. So I don't know if my seeds are going to come up. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to kind of give it a little bit. And then I might, just because it's an integral part of my holiday season, I might have to actually go buy the plants and stick them in the ground so I can get what I need to off of them.
Okay.
But
the basil is probably the thing that suffered. Maybe it's a heavy feeder. Like it's clear that I didn't fertilize it enough. It's uber yellow,
Yeah,
I've actually seen. Go ahead.
Either root rot.
Oh.
That turns yellow too.
Okay, good point. I've actually seen at least one plant start to flower, so I'll take a closer look once I get to the stage, which I'm probably a day off of actually planting the 88 tomato plants. Not quite. But I haven't, for whatever reason, because tomatoes is kind of like it's the epicenter of my garden. So I'm planting around it, believe it or not. So I haven't put a single tomato plant in the ground yet. 90% of my garden, and there will be a tomato plant or two that goes in the front yard. I'm throwing caution to the wind, taking a chance. I'm like taking on the garden squirrels. Even with the big cage, baby. You see, you give me one thing and it's like I want more. But anywho.
Just can't please you, can we?
Obviously not. But I'm going to put some basil near the tomatoes because, something on the interweb said that that's a good idea. So we'll see.
So wait. What are you growing vegetable-wise this year? What are the varieties that you are going to grow in your yard for the summer season? Quickly.
To be continued. So
really? You don't have a plan?
No, I don't have it written down. But I have it in my head. So vegetable wise, not the different. Obviously, I have 5 different varieties or 6 different varieties of tomatoes. You just want the vegetable. So potatoes, tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, hot and sweet, brassicas, if I can get to them to grow, because I haven't. Those are from seed. Stop it.
This whole brassica thing. What are you talking about?
Because I was trying to summarize here. Kale, cabbage, collards. I've not given up on those. So it's a hope on that one. I'm doing kind of leafy greens. Obviously some lettuce. I'm doing some herbs, right? I'm doing a lot of those in containers just to try to control them. Mint and stevia and, parsley and so on. I think, that may be it.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not doing broccoli. I decided against it.
So you're not.
There's a bunch of beans. Oh no, that's not it. Beans, okra. I have a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I have a surprise for okra too. That's
so I'm doing okra,
carrots,
3 kinds
zucchini,
of tomatoes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, so you're not done?
No. Well, no. It was coming to my mind. I didn't have my list in front of me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing, obviously, the snow peas, 3 kinds of tomatoes, bell peppers, 2 kinds of hot peppers, 2 kinds of eggplants, carrots, parsnips, watermelon, cantaloupe, green beans, hopefully peas, not too sure yet, zucchini. That's just my summer garden, so I'm not even including the spring part. And then winter squashes, so your butternut winters, maybe a spaghetti, haven't decided yet. And I believe that's it.
Yeah. Check on everything before you got to the winter garden spot. I was saying check on those things. I do have some melons and stuff, so I was saying check. I have that too.
Oh, okay.
I'm kind of I give a pause for the things that I'm starting from seed now, specifically the things I've never started from seed before. So all of the cabbage
it's
stuff,
just
we'll see. That's my plan.
Yeah. You have a plan and you can alter it. Mm-hmm. So
if I continue to be a kale, collard green, cabbage killer, I'll alter it all right.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things that I have big plans and I don't know how much into fruition they're going to come. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I've decided this is what I'm going to do. And then of course I'll start a fall garden to make it kind of, as productive as possible. Cause my thing is keeping your garden as productive as you can in your small space, getting just as much as you can get out of it without harming anything.
Yeah.
I think
know
that's
that about
really
you.
important.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where you, on the other hand, you have a lot of space. So I don't think you're as worried about it being productive.
Yeah, productive is relative for me, right? So there's quiet is kept. Some people may have picked up on this. There's nothing wrong with if I have 20 pepper plants and they don't produce the most peppers because I have 20 of them. So there's a balance of that, because I'm still testing out some of the growing conditions as well. So this year is very experimental, if I could say that,
Yeah, me too. I'm having a lot of experiments this year, and I'm cool with it though. Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I experiment every year. Mm-hmm. So, I always try to plant something a little bit new or use a different technique or something like that. And and I'm growing herbs and stuff too, but and my strawberries, duh.
Oh, I have a whole bed dedicated to strawberries, and there's strawberries that are they're strawberries. They're totally not red at all, but.
Can I tell you what I'm doing right now?
You've been harvesting
everywhere.
you've been harvesting strawberries for 6 weeks.
No, I don't want to wait. I got to say it. I've been chitting everywhere lately. I just have chits all over my potatoes that I'm putting in the ground today. My white potatoes have chits all over them.
Did you plant your sweet potatoes yet or no?
I did.
Okay.
I got them 4 days ago.
Okay. No, you got them before that because you got them. You were talking about it in the last update.
No, I ordered them.
Oh,
but I got them, and they look like shit.
Oh,
but they're supposed to when you supposed to when you get them the slips.
Well, let me say this: had you given me the tracking number like I insisted on that you didn't do in the last update, remember you're supposed to give it to me as soon as you ordered it, I would already know that they just arrived. But clearly,
I was going to keep it a secret.
You're a secret potato grower.
Yeah. So and my white potato. So it's funny today. My wife goes, "Can we do something about these potatoes?" I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Can we move them?" I'm like, we could move them out to the garden today because you have to cut them and let them dry for a couple days.
Yeah.
And she's like, we just need to get them out of here. I'm like, yeah, they're going in the dirt today. So
good for you.
Today is the day that they're going out there, and it's a little late, but that's when they sent them to me. And that's I did what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on my sweet potato slips, the ones I ordered.
Yeah, you didn't get any sweet potato slips off your potato?
Well, no, I'm looking at them now, but it's like a whole process for me. Once I get to the point of I'm a little bit neurotic about some of this stuff. I want to plant sweet potato plants on a sweet potato plant today. So I've been trying to wait. I went and looked back at the site and it's they ship early June. So that's where we are. So I'm going to give it another week or so. But yeah.
So what's the first thing you're probably going to harvest out of your garden?
Cucumbers.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, shit. I didn't even say cucumbers.
I don't think I did either, but here we are.
Yeah. Damn. I planted my cucumbers too. I planted my first set of cucumbers.
You direct sowed your cucumbers though, right?
I direct sow them. Yes, I do. And they popped up in 2 days. And then I have direct sowed my green beans, my pole beans. Mm-hmm. They are underneath my snow peas, which are already in the ground and growing.
Tell me about that.
Tell you all about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to send you a picture as well because the reason why I was saying earlier, I think I may pull the snow peas, is it's interrupting the next step of plans I have. So I'm trying to figure out. Yeah. Put
it underneath and let it grow until it starts to come up and then trim the snow peas back. Okay. So I'm continuing, they're going to be, I don't know, 4 or 5 days until they even pop the soil. The dirt, whatever, and then they're going to start growing. So until they get a little bit of height on them, it ain't going to hurt nothing. And then I'm going to...
So there's not going to be any root competition?
I think I'm not completely sure on that, but by the time I get to that point, like I'm just going to cut them because you got to think too, my snow peas are coming to the end.
Yeah.
You know, I pulled off 9 pods yesterday that I let get big enough to try and save seed. So I'm going to try and I'm drying them now. And then when they're dry, I'm actually going to take one of them out and just stick them in some, you know, just test them and see if they'll grow.
If it germinates, that's a good idea.
Yeah, just to kind of know, you know what I mean? So, I mean, like I said, I have enough to last 3 years worth of sowing. So, because I have a pretty good germination rate with them. But one thing I've noticed too is I have powdery mildew already because of all the rain we had from the last tropical storm. So I'm trying to prepare for that because cucumbers are just like highly susceptible to it, man. They're just, it's like a magnet. So, and the thing that sucks is I purposely rotated my beds to get away from it, and they both have powdery mildew in it.
Yeah, I'm risking it all with my cucumbers. My cucumbers are in a single bed. I have a couple of peppers in there as well. So there is the risk. Yeah. So there is a risk of, like, you know, we've talked about it, you know, they're all right together. And if it gets to one, it may get to the next and the next and the next. So I'm hopeful, you know, I generally do plant them all together, you know, So,
and that's one thing too, where, you know, I've been talking about, and I've been talking about it privately because it's not out in the open yet. But by the time you see this, there should be a video somewhere you can see about these tough decisions to make. I planted my cucumbers last year and they got powdery mildew and they died. They didn't really die, but I kind of called it quits. But I left that damn trellis empty for the rest of the year for like 2 months, and I could have gotten a whole nother crop. And grow right through the powdery mildew. Just go. You know what I mean? I kind of jacked it up. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with all this tough decisions thing. Yeah,
and let's try to continue to work on not being defeated by, you know, killing kale, cabbage, and collards.
I'm not going to be defeated.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be defeated.
Put something else on that trellis if this happens to happen again.
You damn right. I'll just have so many green beans, I'll swim in them. That's just all there is to it. So, I mean, you know, it's all a learning process. You never stop learning.
Yeah,
ever.
Absolutely. Here.
So the first thing you're going to grow is a cucumber. You're going to harvest,
The first thing, well, I'm just timing wise. The first thing that the strawberries may give them a run for their money. I don't know the exact timing on the strawberries.
No, you're going to get strawberries first.
You think?
If you're already getting strawberries, then yeah.
Yeah, there's strawberries that are already, you know, have turned from flower to strawberry. So, okay.
Yeah, so you'll get that first. Okay. So, you know what time it is?
Is that the sizzle?
Yeah, it's the sizzle time. Whose turn is it?
You listen. Look at my face. Look at my confidence. It's your turn.
So everybody knows what time it is. It's time for the recipe of the day. All right. So I know that we have not been giving fruit any love during this podcast on the recipes. None whatsoever.
Not a bit. Could it be to do with all of the blueberry plants I killed last year? Was it?
I think it's just pure hatred on our part.
Okay,
it's fruitism. It's just fruitism is all it is. So I'm gonna give out. So you know strawberry shortcake. You have
it's
it.
One of my favorites. It's one of my favorites. I rarely have it though.
But you buy the sponge cake, right, with the hole in it. Yeah, right. I don't do that. Mine is different.
What do you?
You know why? Because I'm from the South and we eat biscuits, son. So
I'm all about it.
Yeah, so we take biscuits. Just use your favorite biscuit mix. Make your own biscuits however you want, and use that instead of the sponge cake. And then if you're making your biscuits with dough, you can actually form the hole in it if you want.
Yeah.
And make the little bowl. And then I take my strawberries and I slice them. And a lot of people sprinkle sugar on them, but we actually don't do that. We use stevia or something like that, like a artificial sweetener to make it a little bit healthier. And you already have stevia growing as well. And then And then what I do is I go out and I get a little bit of mint, just a little bit of mint. And I just take my scissors. I take kitchen shears, scissors, whatever. And you just cut them into little teeny slivers. And you put them right on top. And then, in my family, though, this is where we ruin it. We use Cool Whip. We use a fat-free Cool Whip.
I'm all about it, man.
And when I say what we use it, I mean we use it. And you lather it on there, right? But you got to let those strawberries sit with that stuff on there to kind of release some of the juices and stuff like that. And then you put them on there with the biscuit warm.
Yeah.
With the biscuit warm.
You're warming the strawberries a bit. I got it.
With the biscuit warm, I've told you 3 times, so there's no reason for you not to do it. And I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to everybody. Trust me. Warm biscuit. Yep. And no, I don't warm the strawberries at all.
No? Okay.
You know why? Because they're warm, because I just harvest them out of my garden. No, I'm joking.
And are you putting the fresh stevia on it, or are you saying you sprinkle stevia on it, like the powder?
Well, I've never grown stevia, but if I had grown it, I would probably be finding a way to put that on. I'd probably put fresh on there. But I just sprinkle a little bit of, ground stevia on there and then enjoy it. It's real simple. I mean, the thing is, though, man, you put a biscuit on there, it changes it. You got to put a biscuit on it.
I feel like a bell should be rung when you say biscuit. I feel the joy when you say biscuit.
When I say biscuit, a bell rings for sure. It's the dinner bell. Yeah, I mean, in the South, we love biscuits. And all y'all know, because I know y'all in Texas and Oklahoma and Georgia and Florida and all them places, y'all are listening, and y'all know that you like biscuits. So I hear you.
Yeah.
So, and not to mention
that's
some
a really
people
good
up north.
recipe. I appreciate that.
But when I lived in New England, nobody ate biscuits. I would go to a restaurant and be like, yeah, I'd like to have a egg and cheese biscuit. And they're like, oh, we don't have biscuits. I'm like, huh? Y'all ain't got biscuits? And they would, every time, man, it was heartbreaking.
What are they putting egg and cheese on? Like
bread.
Just
they don't have biscuits and they don't have grits.
Knock that off of the list of places I was going to potentially move to.
Yeah, you got to have grits. Yeah, and if you really want to go deep, though, you can put some butter on the biscuit, too. But I feel like it's just adding that fat that's not needed. So, because, we try to eat a lot of things without extra sugar and extra fats in them and stuff like that. Yeah.
But I'm going to, if it's a warm biscuit, 3 times you said it.
3 times.
I'm going to say
biscuit.
that there's probably going to be some butter on my biscuit, but we'll see.
Yeah, the guy that called me ignorant, he used to tell me things like, I've told you 3 times now, so that means you can't forget, and I've always done it. So, but yeah,
nicely done.
So, yeah, and I do think that we've shown a little bit of hate towards fruit.
You know what's so crazy? And it's because maybe I just don't grow much of it. This is only year 2. No, I grew strawberries years and years ago in a container, believe it or not. And anywho, I don't grow a lot of fruit. So maybe that's the reason why it's been kind of out of sight, out of mind. But I love. That's quite literally one more way for me to eat strawberries. And I feel like this year is going to be the year, man. I'm going to be... giving away pints of strawberries or charging like $20. Strawberries are super expensive, man.
Dude, if my carrots come up, I'm going to have to do the same thing that I was talking about earlier. I'm going to have to figure, because I got 148 carrots planted and I have to put it in another patch.
You know what? This is the part. This is where we diverge. Like, this is the part. For an hour and 27 minutes, you've been giving me a hard time. 100 and how many carrots?
28, I think. 128. But it's no.
Look at this face.
No, I'm gonna look at it, but you look at my face. You look at my face, because there's a smirk on it. Because I planted them in patches over weeks, so they'll come in waves.
Yeah.
Now,
there's a term for that too. It's not staggering. It's something else that folks on the interweb call that.
Oh shit, I forgot to. There is a technical term. Succession planting. Yeah. Yes, I've been succession planting them.
Clearly, yeah.
And we eat carrots a lot though, carrots, and we actually make hot dogs out of carrots because we're vegetarian. So we make them taste like hot dogs. So, and if you cook a hot dog that's going to taste like a carrot, I eat like 15 of them because there ain't nothing in a carrot. Yeah. So, there's ways to do it, but
yeah, I get you.
Strawberries are one of those things that we don't need a lot of recipes for. I think
Well, I mean, you
fruits
could
don't
add
really
them
need
to
a
almost
lot.
anything, but it's actually pretty cool to have an official recipe, right? You know, so
Yeah.
something that and it's one of my favorite treats, but I mean, there are not a lot of times if you go and buy them out of the grocery store that's truly strawberry shortcake. It's that other thing that isn't quite
Yeah.
strawberry shortcake. So,
You know what we need to do? We need to have a whole show series about cooking out of the garden
that's a good
on the
idea.
podcast. I think we should do that. I think
You know
that would
that I
be
make
fun.
notes on the things that we say we're going to do because someone has to keep
Yeah.
us accountable.
I know we have a whole spreadsheet that we talk about every once in a while, and we end up deleting more and adding stuff, and it's crazy. There's just too many topics. There's
Good
too much to
time,
talk
yeah.
about.
I mean, it's endless. I mean,
But-
we could
and you're-
dedicate a
you're
whole
in-
episode to every pepper plant that no, we probably wouldn't do that.
Well, and yeah, I actually at one point had thought about doing episodes on plant profiles for certain ones, but I was like, man,
I don't
it
know
just
I
kinda-
don't know if I'm that interested in it. Let me think on that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you got to be like dedicated to a certain thing. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's in the bank, but I don't know if we're going to do a withdrawal. Let's put it that way.
Gosh, you're so corny sometimes.
I am, aren't I? But no. So I hope people will try the strawberry shortcake, the Southern style, I guess.
There you go.
So I came to a realization to close out. I wish I could call myself the barefoot gardener.
Oh, like the barefoot Contessa?
Yeah, but somebody's definitely got the barefoot
Yeah, for
gardener.
sure. Yeah.
But I definitely garden barefoot.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. That's not a thing for
exclusively.
me.
It sucks when I go to use a shovel though, but you kind of get used to it. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I don't know. Man, there's no better feeling than grass in between your toes. That's it. No better
Maybe
feeling.
that's the case if I would actually have grass. Remember?
Yeah, that's right. You're smart. You're not wasting space. So do you have anything to tell the good people?
90% of my front yard garden is planted. Oh, we already told them that though, right?
Yeah, but tell them again.
Yeah, man. So we're basically stepping it up, obviously. We're in June now, and my garden is in overdrive. That's an exaggeration. 90% is enough. A couple of things going on when it comes to, there will be more garden tours, obviously, as these things start to grow. Still working on the container series. If you believe that I'm a happy gardener now, if you've been listening to these episodes, buckle up. You're going to see a whole different level. like I'm uber excited. So yeah, appreciate y'all.
Yeah. And I just want to say thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching us if you are. We're on YouTube now. And if you want to watch something about tough decisions to make in your garden, I'm kind of doing a little series on that. It's not a very popular idea, but maybe you need to make a tough decision and hopefully it'll help you. So, hit me up, Backyard Gardener, and spell GARDNER because that's the way it is. And other than that, I think that's it, man. We're going to wrap this one up. I don't know what's coming out next week. So, wait. Instagram Live. We didn't even talk about it. Damn, we can't talk about it at the end.
Yeah.
We can't talk about it at the end.
We'll come back to that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put something else up. Maybe we'll do a little mini thing. Anyways, Thank you. Catch you guys later. See you later now. And until then, grow safe, stay safe, learn to grow for change. Say see ya.
Oh, see ya.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. You can find us at Backyard Gardens the Movie on Facebook and Backyard Gardener on Instagram. And YouTube is Backyard Gardener, where I'm doing videos showing cooking and building gardens and gardening tips, all kinds of good stuff. And you can find Batavia at...
You'll find me on Instagram at B_BetterGarden. And then you'll find me on Facebook, same name. And then I'm also over on YouTube at Be Better Garden. I am sharing #GardenJoy every chance I get. I hope you enjoy.
So if you have any questions, hit us up on all of our platforms, anywhere you want, and we will be more than happy to help you with what you can. And again, thanks for listening, and we will see you guys next time. Cut.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.